the turnout, it would seem there's quite a few people here tonight. But we're really pleased that so many people have come for this talk because it is a subject area that actually I think in the Muslim community really deserves some attention and thinking about. And we've got a fantastic panel for you who are going to offer research perspectives as well as a short film and as well as practical solutions. So I'm going to introduce them one at a time in terms of the order they're speaking in. And they'll talk for about 50 minutes and then we'll have Q&A. So our first speaker is Dr. Fawzia Ahmed. And Fawzia is a sociologist whose research and publications have focused on the representation of British Muslim women and their experiences in higher education, employment and social welfare. Her current research is exploring British Muslim experiences and difficulties in getting married and staying married. She's currently based in the Department of Political Science at University College London and is an honorary research fellow at the Centre for the Study of Ethnicity and Citizenship at Bristol University. So over to Fawzia. Thank you.
Okay, it's time for everyone. Can you hear me? I think that might be. All right. Can you hear me now? I don't need to shout. Okay, great. Thank you for City Circle for inviting me today. I will try as fast as I can to go through these slides that I have. I have a number of issues that I want to raise. I've been doing this research on and off for about 20 or so years. That gives my age away a little bit. But I basically started off doing research on Muslim women in higher education. And one of the things that came up time and time again was parents were encouraging their daughters to get a degree in order to secure a good quality husband. However, the realities of that have proved to be something that is well, why we're here today actually, and why we kind of know that there is a real problem now around getting married, and now there's a problem around staying married. So what I want to try and do very briefly is to try and offer some brief insights from the research I've been doing, highlight some quotes if I get a chance, and possibly offer some of the kind of solutions that women and men that I've spoken to have suggested, and some ways that maybe we can change our own thinking. So I'll start off. This is a little anecdote joke that was sent to me by Humaira Khan from the Anissa Society, and it starts off by saying, while creating husbands, God promised women that good and ideal husbands would be found in all corners of the world. And then he made the earth round. In many ways, that sort of sums up what we're facing a lot of the time, or what it feels like lots of women are facing. I talk about British-Muslim relationships as being in a state of crisis. I know that this is something that a lot of other people have talked about as well. I'm not alone in this. So if we look at the fact that there's an increasing cohort of British-born Muslim women who are in their 30s and 40s and finding it very difficult to marry, we need to ask, why is that the case? What's happening? Why is it that our parents came in all shapes and sizes, all looks, some were kind of models, some were not, but they managed to get married. Our grandparents didn't have a problem getting married. Why is it that we are now having this problem getting married? Would our parents, if they were looking now, would they be having the same problems that we're having? I think it's an interesting question to look at. We've talked about the crisis. I said I'm not the only one who's spoken about it. Saima Muhammad is in the audience. She's written about the Muslim spinster crisis. From the academic perspective, we've had colleagues, these are in Australia, so I know it's an international problem, and I've had colleagues in various other countries across the world, in America, in Europe, Italy, for instance, talk about the same thing. We talked about the myth of the Hatti celibate. And again, like I said, we need to ask ourselves, why is marriage, getting married, staying married, a real problem for our generation? Why is it that non-Muslims appear to be much more open to issues around difference, issues around appearance? They can be a lot more forgiving about certain things, and we've become quite obsessed with superficial issues and superficial aspects to getting married. Some simple anecdotes. I'm hoping that Mr. Raja from the Islamic circles who runs Muslim marriage events will come, and he can give you some of his anecdotes from the events that he runs. But basically, I've been doing a lot of research with that organisation, and what we find is that the events are almost always oversubscribed with women attendees, many of them in the 30s to 40s cohort. Sometimes we find that the turnout is 3 to 1, meaning 3 women per men. Sometimes it's as big as 5 to 1. We've had events where there are increasing numbers of divorcees attending, and in those events sometimes you'll have 15 women, 15 to 20 women, maybe 5 men tops turning up. We need to ask what's going on there, what's happening. The GPU event is here. He can talk about, which was, I think it was in October if memory serves. When we did the pre-registration before the event started, what we found was there were 170 women to 63 men who'd registered. That is startling, and of those, 85 women were over 30, and only 33 men were over 30. This indicates the scale of the problem. It doesn't go into the fact that on the day it was massive chaos. Ms. Anne can talk about that. Some of you may have attended and you might know what the chaos was about. So, Muslim relationships and social change. We've got a breakdown in our family, in our traditional family structures. Whereas before we used to rely on parental and family networks in order to help us get married, and we talked about things in terms of arranged marriage. What we're seeing now is a gradual shift from parental and extended networks to the individually led approach. And what happens is that second and third generation Muslims are being encouraged to look towards their own networks, either at university or in their work, to find their own spouses. There's a change in discourse that follows with this. Some Muslims from arranged marriage to that of an Islamic or halal relationship. What does that mean? I'm still trying to work that one out. There's a lot of talk about Muslims looking for the third way, someone in the middle, or an approach that is somewhere in the middle between the sort of parental-led approach, the arranged marriage and Islamic approach, and something that is also gives them the freedom. So I've had women talk about wanting to have love within the parameters of a halal relationship, talking about wanting to have some fun, wanting to have romance in that relationship before they get married. And the impact of that social change. What we're seeing is a commercialisation of marriage, increase in matrimonial websites and events. And what I'm finding is that an increase in professionalisation is leading to an increase in individualisation. And this increase in individualisation and increase in choice is leading to more confusion. There's an inability on the part of people attending matrimonial events to decide who to choose, who to go for, who to talk to. There's an increase in superficiality. I've heard, superficial comments from men and women. I've heard women who get asked to speak to someone, they get approached to talk with a view to speaking further to someone, and they look at the guy and they turn to their friends and I say, oh, boy, he's bald. And, is that the only reason you don't want to speak to him? Similarly, baldies can be hotties. What's to say? What is to say that the guy that you like right now with a lush head of hair is not going to be bald 5 years from now? Similarly, men are looking at appearance. They're going by appearance. They're looking as always. The most populars in the events are the ones who are the prettiest. Doesn't matter whether their personalities are there to match, but they're going for the girls who are obviously the most pretty, and they're the ones who are being spoken to all the time. We are kind of obsessed with, and we're obsessed with age as well, men especially, and I'll say something to that in a moment. So, again, we're seeing an increase in marriage age, especially amongst degree-educated Muslim women in their late 20s, 30s, 40s. These women have a lot to offer, and yet we're finding that we're being let down, basically. So some of the comments that I hear women say, they talk about themselves as going past the sell-by date. They describe themselves, and this is from way back in the sort of 20 years ago, women talking about themselves as the Muslim Bridget Jones, women talking about themselves as being too educated and therefore pricing ourselves outside the marriage market, and that means they're contending with male egos, men who don't like the fact that maybe women are earning more than them, maybe more qualified than them, and finding that quite hard to deal with, even though ideally that's what they quite like on paper. So I have this it's one of my favourite quotes. It's from a lovely girl. She said, you get more educated, you're going to have trouble, because I have a friend who's a barrister. Who's she going to marry? Do you know what I mean? She stopped looking about 3 years ago because Mr. Other Barrister is going to want to marry someone who's a bit lower. He's still going to want his dinner cooked at the end of the day. True. So some of the concerns. The rapid rise of degree-educated Muslim women is not matched by compatible Muslim men, not defined just by education, but by an employment, by emotional maturity. The potentially compatible Muslim men are often seeking, and I'm sorry, I don't mean this to sound like a Muslim male bashing session, but there are some realities here. Men are often seeking, or they know that they can rely on their parents to marry someone from their country of origin if they can't find someone here or they can't be bothered to look. They're also freer to marry outside their religious and ethnic communities, and they'll be saying something about that later today. And they're also seeking women who are at least 4 to 5 or 10 to 15 years younger, sometimes more. I've been to events where there are men who turned up in their 60s and they will not look at a woman over 35. Again, what is going on with us? And I speak as someone who's been through the process myself, come out the other way, but concerns continue. Differing expectations in marriage regarding educational levels, especially around gender roles. Men are expecting women to be degree educated. They want that, their families want that, they want them to be professional, but they also want a woman to maintain full domestic duties, and that refers to the quote that Amber gave earlier. We've also, as Muslims, very unfortunately, we've inherited many self-defeating attitudes with respect to marriage, so we are quite ageist. There's quite a lot of racism going on in our communities, especially around ethnic background. I know people who go to Pakistani events won't go to an Indian event. People won't marry outside ethnicity, and again we sort of think we identify ourselves increasingly as Muslim and not as Pakistani, Indian, Arab, whatever. Why is it we can't work past that issue? But also the issue around skin colour is an old Asian problem. It has to be kind of light. I was told, just personal anecdote, I was told many years ago I was too dark by someone. So we have this kind of issue going on. And there's a preference for reverts. Every time there's a revert event, again, Nizam will tell you, maybe 1 or 2 reverts turn up, everybody else is a born Muslim, and everybody else is looking for a white revert. Again, what's going on? There's a really interesting quote which has come from somebody who's in the audience, I won't name, but he said men can be personal in the workplace, but when they come home they adopt a village mentality towards their wives. And I had another really interesting quote from a woman where she said that men are looking for wives, women are looking for companions, and I think this kind of really sort of outlines the key difference that men and women are looking for in marriages. And in terms of experiences searching, okay, nobody likes going to a matrimonial event. People experience them as cattle markets. People experience them as humiliating, unnatural. There's a poor matching of men and women. Women can talk about the men not being of a high caliber who turn up to these events. There's a lack of honesty in online profiles, and again, I'm sure all of you have heard of shock stories and have experienced horror stories where someone has told you a complete string of lies. There's this checklist mentality that operates when we're looking for marriage, and the fact that if someone doesn't tick every box, we don't give them a chance. We're not prepared to sort of think outside the box. So we're restricting our criteria to quite superficial things. Sometimes people hide behind the online matchmaking services because they're afraid of meeting people on a one-to-one basis. So they form relationships, they engage in conversations with them, then they meet them and find it's a big disappointment, and they become increasingly upset and disappointed, and they internalise that. We need to ask about what's going on psychologically with us as well. So again, just a quick thing on women's perspectives. They talk about men lacking chivalry, lacking manners, inappropriate conduct. Comments from some converts, some revert women, the assumption that because they had a previous non-Muslim past with possibly sexual relationships, that they're somehow desperate now from Muslim. These are comments from Muslim men. And again, matrimonial websites, quite inappropriate comments. Some men's perspectives. I want to sort of read you a couple of quotes very quickly in the couple of minutes I've got left. This is a guy, I'll give another quote from him in a minute. All of us guys who attend these events have been brought up where mum was a housewife, dad was working, and it worked. But now it seems that, of course, women are getting educated and they must, it's their first. But what was the purpose of their education? Women are still the homemakers once they get married, but they should be educated so that if anything befell their husband, then they could stand on their own 2 feet. He then goes on to say, I attended one of these speed dating events, and there were 35 girls and everything, and a lot of these girls are 31, 33, they've never been married or divorced. A lot of them were doctors. I just thought it's such a shame because I wouldn't have had the heart to say don't work. It would almost be an embarrassment. But everybody else, I say, if you're that good at your job, then there'll be always time for it later. He then adds, there are certain stages he's a medical professional. He then adds, there are certain stages in your life when you are ready for certain things. Because I work in the medical field, I know, and all the GPs will say the same. For a woman, her period of safely delivering children is between 17 to 26. That's the most comfortable safe period for her to have a child. After that age, your body starts to change, your biology starts to change, your pelvic girdle starts to stiffen, etc. Another quote, and I'm going to throw these quotes at you so that just these are things that people said to me. Another quote from a guy, women need to wake up. I think the girls in the UK needs to wake up. They're gone over 30 and still dreaming, waiting for Mr. Perfect. I am good-looking, AAT qualified, household and a British citizen, not born, 36 and divorced, no kids, mum and dad lives with me. A lot of girls reject me for one of these reasons without even seeing me. They're looking for specs like buying a mobile. I'm going to Pakistan and Charlotte to get married because girls here are not serious about marriage. They need to be shown the reality. This will increase zina in Muslim girls and also lesbianism. I've seen a few Muslim girls going towards that if we don't do anything soon, because this is a basic instinct of all humans. Okay, while you're still laughing, I'm going to quickly run on. Polygamy, 2 minutes. Polygamy is becoming, or an interest in polygamy is becoming increasingly an issue that people are talking about, and the men especially are kind of trying to explore for very different reasons. And men or women also have some reasons for maybe exploring the polygamy route. But men, generally, when we've had again at the marriage events that Mizan has organised, spoken to men who are looking for second wives, they'll say because they can and because they're allowed, not because, any other reason. Some will say, someone said to me quite recently, God made men to be polygamous, and if women aren't interested in that attitude, then there are plenty more fish in the sea. And I should add that a lot of men who come to matrimonial events looking for a second wife, a lot of them their first wives don't know that they're looking, and they don't care that their first wives don't know, and that's quite shocking. And that makes me think, what is it about you that makes you think another woman is going to find you attractive with that attitude? And a lot of them will have 4 or 5 children already from previous marriages. Again, what are they looking for a second wife for? I'm not going to, I don't know. And again, women, difficulty finding suitable men with the right caliber. We've seen a lot of this in the press, some, saying that some women will rather share a decent man than marry someone who is potentially going to cause them trouble and not be worth it. So one of the things that we're seeing people are talking about a lot more in terms of what women want, a lot more women are asking for the personalised service. It's a return in many ways back to the old matrimonial matchmaker, where someone who knows you and knows another person is able to match compatibility and match on the basis of that. And people are looking at people are saying that they're willing to pay a premium in order to have someone do that kind of personalised service for them. And a lot of people are wanting mosques and Muslim organisations to do more to help Muslims get married and offer better support. And there's a lot of talk and requests for premarital counselling, not just about what your Islamic rights are within the marriage, but also the practicalities of living together with somebody else and the difficulties that are involved in that and how to work through difficulties. And so some final questions. How do we reconcile differences in expectations between men and women? Do these cause marital discord? I think so. Pros and cons of emulating parents' marriages, I'll leave that for you to think about. And to think about the fact that there's a great deal of naivety around relationships and too much emphasis on the need to get married, on the religious aspect of the need to get married, and romance rather than the realities of sustaining and working at a relationship. And the need for better balance between Islamic perspectives on what we look for in a spouse and social realities. And we need to look at how issues around segregation from an early age at Muslim events impacts on male and female interactions, because it can be that we can work quite happily with people in a work environment and a professional environment. When it comes to a marriage event, everyone sort of clams up and no one knows how to talk to anybody. So finally, are there links between different marital expectations and marital breakdown? And I will leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you, Fawzia, for that. There's so much there that I'm sure will open up discussion. Our next speaker is Zara Afzal, and Zara's been developing documentaries, and her first project was on the pathways of the Hindu Kush, and I know now that she's working on a documentary which she's going to show some of today called Hidden Heart, which is about Muslims having relationships with non-Muslims. Yeah, that's correct. So I'll hand you over to Zara, but Zara's a freelance filmmaker, and she's also been a media lecturer in colleges in London and the South East. Thank you, Zara.
Okay, thank you very much, Ramya. Well, I just want to say thank you to Six Circle for inviting myself and Tamina to talk about our film Hidden Heart. I've compiled a 10-minute demo of the film. We're currently in production with a view of launching a crowdfunding campaign in March 2014 so we can complete the film at the end of the year. We believe the best way of making the film with the sensitivity which it deserves is to make it independently. I'm going to show you the demo. They've got a one-page document about the film. If you're interested and want to keep up to date with the film's progress, put your email down, or alternatively you can go to Zygo Film's website and you can join the mailing list there, or you can go to our Facebook page, Hidden Heart Film, and Twitter, Hidden Heart Film as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you, Zara. We'll hear more from Zara in the Q&A, but it touches on a really pertinent issue, I think, at the moment. Most of the people in the film are Muslim women, and this question about whether Muslim women can marry non-Muslim men. I'm going to now pass over to Themina, who's also been involved in the film. And Themina is the director of British Muslims for Secular Democracy. She's been shortlisted for the Cosmopolitan magazine's Ultimate Woman of the Year Awards 2011 in the campaigner category. She also won Outstanding Achievement Award for the Sayyidah Fatima Interfaith Conference. And currently she's doing a fellowship at Cambridge looking at Islam, race and interracial marriages. So I'll pass over to her.
You just saw the trailer for Hidden Heart, a groundbreaking documentary by Zara Afzal and Christopher Hurd, which I am the executive producer of. It offers a nuanced and sensitive portrayal of the backlash that heritage Muslim women often face when marrying outside their ethnic communities. Will he convert or won't he? Even if he does convert, to what extent is it a real conversion? Won't someone think of the children? Family politics starts to show some of its uglier incantations. Asma Balas acknowledges in Believing Women in Islam that marriage in Islam is located at the juncture of the private and the public, the religious and the social. Broader concerns about the synchronicity of social backgrounds are often amplified as a result. As Dugan Ramana writes in his book, Intercultural Marriage, Promises and Pitfalls, similar social background is an important ingredient in any marriage, intercultural or not, as it implies, but does not guarantee, similarity of education, attitudes, tastes and manners. In many British Muslim families, the emphasis on shared social and cultural backgrounds is disproportionately high and does not take into account the myriad of other, often intangible factors that influence attraction or long-term compatibility. According to Labour Force survey data from between 1997 and 2001, analysed by Kerry Peach, 98% of Bangladeshi women were married to Bangladeshi men, and 94% of Pakistani women were married to Pakistani men. Peach concluded that marriages were overwhelmingly within religion, within caste. This is despite the fact that, according to some Muslim commentators, 1 in 8 Muslim marriages in the UK now ends in divorce, up from 1 in 20 in the space of 2 generations, writes British Muslim comedian Shaista Aziz. Data from the 2001 census indicates that the percentage of lone parents within Muslim communities is 12%, and Sophie Gilliatt-Ray notes in her book, Muslims in Britain, that this is higher than would be anticipated given the efforts to secure lasting marriages. It seems that the offer of family support and the process by which it manifests itself may be more important to British Muslim women than the result of said support. Tamina Bassett's 1996 research shows that familial support is a key reason why many British Muslim women go along with arranged marriages in the first place. One of her participants noted, if you choose someone yourself and you have problems, then you have nowhere to go. Of course, the taboo attached to interracial marriage within British Muslim communities is nowhere near as severe as that attached to interreligious marriage or gay marriage. However, intersectional discrimination is often an issue, particularly when it comes to male partners of heritage Muslim women, both those who convert to Islam and those who do not. Back in 2012, some Muslim men picked up on the fact that I'd married a white Irishman and used this to denigrate me and my work as a liberal Muslim activist. Because he comes from an ethnic background which is not obviously associated with Islam and hadn't changed his name on social media, these internet trolls automatically assumed he was a non-Muslim. In actual fact, he had made his declaration of faith in 2006, 3 years before meeting me, and was as devout and eager practitioner of Islam as many converts are, and remains so. Aisha Ansano's 2012 research at Stanford University, Muslim Women's Marriage Choices, lends credence to the discrimination faced by non-heritage Muslim males who marry into heritage Muslim communities. Even though Ansano's research was with American Muslim women and she had only 11 interviewees, the response of participant Amira is particularly poignant. Amira said that she'd considered marrying a non-Muslim man for some time, as finding a Muslim man in the places she lived and worked was proving very difficult, but she eventually found a male convert to marry. She says that even this upset her mother, though it would have been even worse if he hadn't been a Muslim, she clarifies. African-American writer and Muslim convert Dasha Brookins conducted 2 polls on his own website in 2008. The first asked 118 respondents whether they would marry someone of a different race. 50% answered yes, 16.9% said yes unless their parents objected, 3.4% said probably not, while 1.7% said definitely not. The second poll, which also had 118 respondents, asked a more specific question and of females only. Would you marry an African-American or Afro-Caribbean brother? The number of yeses at 52.5% were roughly the same, as were yes unless their parents objected at 16.1%. However, the probably nots increased to 12.7% and no absolutely nots increased to 9.3%. 2 women out of 118 who were African American themselves wrote to the poll creator to explain that this reluctance was based on personal experience and observations of their community. However, it goes without saying that we cannot extrapolate from this, and formal research needs to be conducted on the specific concerns of black male converts in the UK who are or have been married to heritage Muslim women or those who seek such a marriage. It is clear that the stigma of marrying outside one's heritage community applies to Muslim women more acutely than their male counterparts. Yet civil society responses to this problem have not fully grappled with this distinction. In November 2012, the Christian Muslim Forum launched its Interfaith Marriage Guidelines at Westminster Abbey in cooperation with the Interfaith Marriage Network and the Muslim Christian Marriage Support Group. They featured case studies of Muslim women who are married to men from different ethnic and religious backgrounds. They also reproduced statistics from the 2001 census, which recorded 17,163 Christian women married to Muslim men and 4,233 Christian men married to Muslim women. While the guidelines provide a strong framework for the pastoral care of men and women in interfaith and to a lesser extent interracial marriages, they do not specifically address the Islamic jurisprudence, which generally states that Muslim women should not marry non-Muslim men. Jerome Taylor, religious affairs correspondent at The Independent, described a case study of a Muslim woman marrying a Catholic man while writing about these guidelines in November 2012. While we came from different faiths, we approached them in similar ways. Although I was in my 30s and well-educated, I was treated as though I was a silly little girl who had got herself into an irresponsible situation which could only be solved by my fiancé converting. It was also assumed that although my fiancé was Catholic, his religion was less important and that he likely did not believe in it to the same degree Muslims believed in their religion. We were not asked what drew us together, how we met, how we managed differences. Instead, we were judged harshly and told off. We had discussed the option of one of us converting, but decided this was not for us. At times, this opprobrium can turn into outright violence and intimidation against couples and or family members. One of the most frequently reported cases of a British Muslim woman marrying outside her community was that of Zena Briggs, who set up the Zena Foundation to help forced marriage victims after she escaped one herself, having eloped with a white Englishman, Jack Briggs. They were chased by a private investigator and ended up with a £9,000 bounty on their heads. After 16 years on the run, the couple split up. However, their book Runaways was read out by Anne Cryer MP in the House of Commons, eventually leading to the creation of the government's forced marriage unit in 2005. As Boston-based Imam Suhaib Webb says, marriage is the easiest chapter in the books of fiqh, but the hardest chapter in our society today. Fortunately, there are imams and theologians who take a more empathetic and pragmatic approach to interfaith marriage. Dr. Osama Hassan, a former imam at the Tawheed Mosque in Leighton, who you saw in the film, is one of these. He's one of the theologians who actively officiates Islamic wedding ceremonies between Muslim women and non-Muslim men. A fatwa on his website outlines the thorny issue of Muslim women who convert yet are already married to non-Muslim men. It provides a refutation of certain opinions, most notably of the European Council for Fatwa and Research, that such marriages should be annulled after a 3-month waiting period if the husband refuses to convert. One of the examples Dr. Hassan cites is that of the Prophet's daughter Zainab, who remained married to Abu al-As for 6 years after she converted to Islam and before he did so. In terms of theological support for interracial marriage specifically, the Quranic verse that is often cited is Surah Ar-Rum 30.22, and of his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your tongues and colours. Indeed, there are signs in this for the wise. The other one is Surah Al-Hujurut 49.13. O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. Verily, the most honoured of you in the sight of Allah is he who is the most righteous of you, and Allah has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all things. On top of this, the Prophet, peace be upon him, also encouraged interracial marriages among the Sahaba, including the marriage of Bilal, the Muezzin of Ethiopian descent, to an Arab lady from Bani Bukair. This explicit theological support for interracial marriage has not successfully filtered down to the grassroots, nor has the multitude of religious interpretations on Muslim women marrying non-Muslim men. Even if one were to follow the mainstream opinion on this, it must be recognised that attraction and compatibility cannot be number crunched via some precise formula, and that women in secular legal systems ultimately have the right to marry who they choose. Finally, there's an acute demographic issue within diaspora Muslim communities where men have more freedom in practice to either marry women from outside their heritage communities or those from their countries of origin. It is neither just nor compassionate to allow this state of affairs to continue unabated while at the same time increasing the social restrictions on women to the point where they're unable to find partners at all. Since I'm such a strong believer in Islam as an enabler of human dignity and perfecter of human character, I don't think it was ever the intended state of affairs to prevent Muslim women from marrying people who possess strong character traits, yet lack Muslim names. As Cambridge University's Contextualising Islam in Britain report, number 2, states, many hadith attest to the fact that the Prophet refrained from applying legislative or penal codes in solving personal matters of morality, preferring to leave private relationships to be worked out between the parties concerned on the basis of broad ethical advice and practical common sense. He also showed compassionate awareness of human limitations and loving concern, that people should not oppress themselves with unsustainable spiritual burdens and disproportionate self-criticism. This is why I'm proud to be the executive producer of Hidden Heart, a film which humanises these challenges and will hopefully make them more relatable to people who might otherwise be inclined to oppose the marriage of their female relatives on religious or racial grounds. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Felina. And last but not least, we have Mizan Raja. And it's good to have obviously like a male perspective on the panel, but also Nizam's been central he's the co-director of Islamic Circles, which is an organisation that organises a range of Islamic events. But some of you may know him from the Muslim marriage events, which is a project that he's been running for 13 years. And so I think his perspective will be really useful in terms of trying to make a practical approach to dealing with these issues and all the challenges that involves.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to thank City Circle, Fozia, and the rest of the panel. I'm probably the only bloke on the planet. I'm going to... Where do I start? I've seen it all. I've done it all. And I'm going to start off with some of my thoughts. Okay. I've been married 15 years, alhamdulillah. I've got teenage kids. I'm seeing the whole process go through myself. And I'm a ultra conservative. I'm a traditionalist at the end of the day. So I want to lay the grounds where I'm coming from at the end of the day. It's very, very important for people to know what the narrative is and where they're coming from. I want to respect everyone's opinions, and everyone's on a journey. That's how I see it. And it's very, very important. This is, the title itself, for me, is problematic. Unlucky in love, single in the city. I mean, you can never be unlucky in love. Allah loves you. The Prophet ﷺ loves you. You know? And you can never be single in the city. You know, how can you? You're human beings. You see? And maybe you need to get out of the city. You need to get out of the city and go back to your fitrah, primal reality.
As long as you don't say go back home.
This is something my own journey, seeing my own kids grow up, how I have 3 daughters and 1 boy, and seeing the dynamics of having girls and boys. And that's very important, you see. I'm not going to blow my own trumpet here. I mean, alhamdulillah, we've had serviced over 50,000 people. We've had a couple of thousand marriages. So what? Doesn't mean anything to me. Okay. Most important thing is, over the years, I've learned more about my own relationship with my wife, with my children. More importantly, I realise this whole thing about marriage, the obsession with marriage and love, we're obsessed. We're just obsessed. We just seem to be either depressed, okay, or obsessed. We're not people of the middle path anymore. And it's really problematic here. And half the time, just some thoughts. I think this is not just a Muslim issue. Okay, the non-Muslim community, other communities have got this same problem. It's a problem of modernity. It's going to get worse. I'm going to give it some. I'm going to apologise, and I'm going to say it as it is. I think everyone knows who I say it as it is anyway. But you're going to lose a generation of people. Okay, we have to accept that. And I'm an activist, and I don't like saying that. As well as I actually confide to, I've come down to the conclusion there will be a generation that we can't, to some extent. It's very challenging. We have an emerging generation who are very liberal in everything that they do. And I think part of the problem is, look, you've made your phone your best partner, number 1 partner. If you put your life around this mobile phone, social network, this is half the problem. Okay, more than half the problem. The ego, the self. You don't really need this in your life. You don't. Throw it in the bin. People live better lives, intellectually more stimulating. I mean, who would have thought, Mizan, after 15 years, never in my life I thought that would be a Silla Black, or a halal pimp. I'm sorry to say this. I've had everything. On my service, I've got princes, kings. I mean, I go around. Honestly, I'm not going to blow my own trumpet. I dread the summer periods when the whole of the Gulf come down. I don't want to talk about that. It just gives me a headache. Running the service, I've been with Mustafa and myself. We've been spat at, we've been beaten up. We've done so many nikahs. You can name it. We've done polygamous nikahs. I'm about 30. I've got no problem with polygamy. We've had fatwas on our head. So many fatwas I've given. I've sort of lost count. And the people who've given fatwas, a couple of months later, they come down from the pulpit and say, "Brother, I'm sorry. I need a wife." You understand what I'm trying to say? So you have to be very. You've got to have a thick skin. You're dealing with people who come to matrimony events who are gay, okay, who are being forced by their parents to come and search. You've got people who have actually got mentally disturbed. Worse, you've got people who've got jinns in them, if you believe in jinns or not. Actually, in these matrimonials, we have to deal with them. The biggest problem is, you see, a lot of these people probably aren't looking for marriage, and marriage isn't really the thing they need. Okay, they probably need counselling. Okay, counselling. They probably need some. Just be a human being again. Sit down, brother. Let's have a cup of tea. So that's what's up. Yeah, all right, sister. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And then you begin to realise there's a whole history behind that's actually falls out. And the marriage is just it's just a cover-up. Because you see, once you get married, And anyone who's been married, who's been divorced, who's been through the whole process, I mean, I was just speaking to Sahel before I came, you know, and many other ulama, saying, look, we have to stop this, that making marriage, and I keep on saying this in my events, and whatever events, I promote everybody and go, look, marriage is a means to an end, it's not the ultimate goal, okay? This is something we need to get in our heads, okay? And this is the problem of modern societies, it makes everything, if you make yourself the goal, right, and you think that you doing what you have to do, marriage is the ultimate goal, if I don't get married, it's going to be the end of the world, I can't live a spiritual life, a purpose-driven life, a God existence life. You've got it wrong. You're misunderstanding the Quran here. You're misunderstanding the whole point here. You know, it's about living a God consciousness life. Okay, look, it's taken me 13 years to understand the ayah of the Quran. 13, you know, sort of wrong. We all quote that. You always get it in the wedding, you know, wedding emails and God knows what. You know. It's the love and mercy. You know. Which Allah brings between the husband and wife, you know, the love is missing in our narrative, it's missing in our conversation. Okay, look, most Muslims don't read poetry, but what poetry? You know? What are you talking about? Most Muslims are so illiterate, generally, of their religious discourse, spiritual religious discourse. This affects them, you see, when you're day in, day out, you know, working at work, in the city, this affects your mindset. So no one comes to our marriage events looking for love. Very few people do. They don't even yearn for love. They don't even ask for love. You know, this is something, there's something psychologically gone wrong with this community. You know, seriously, wallahi, seriously, I sometimes really wonder what the hell has gone wrong. Yeah, I mean, I've seen that. I mean, I'm very vocal. I have this WhatsApp on the ulama and activists. I'm the loudest of the troublemaker, you see. I'm very, I say what I say, I don't care, I'm independent, I don't care. You know, I'm not on anyone's pockets, especially the government's. And, you see, when we had this GPU matrimony event, and what really made me sad, we had a leader of the Muslim community walk by and goes, what is this? And I said, look, this is something you should have done 25 years ago. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. And he'll tell me, God's man, and this is a person that goes on to TV, writing in the press. This is the problem. The Muslim leadership don't give a damn. You see, you have a mosque down the road from here, the central XYZ mosque. They don't care. The leadership don't care. But forget the leadership. Do you care? Are you really bothered? Are you really bothered about your heart? What station you are? I think there's a spiritual crisis here, which is marriage is just a cover-up. It's just a cover-up. Don't use marriage. Marriage is sacred. If you want to do it properly, you do it properly. It's a sacred act. It's an act of God. When you get married, then you understand the trials and tribulations. Don't ask for marriage if you're going to be, you know, if you're not going to live up to that spiritual, sacred act, you see. This is something missing in our discourse, in our commitment. And I don't want to take up too much time. Look, 2 minutes. Look, just some thoughts. There is some truth in men from Mars, women from Venus. You know, someone told me, you know, you're becoming the men you want to marry and the women you want to marry. Food for thought. Women becoming the men they want to marry. Men becoming the men, the women they want to marry. There's too much talk of misogyny. Misogyny. We also got the opposite as well. We've got too many people hating men. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? We had a, you know, Professor Murata, invited her, and she was a pioneer 30 years ago, right? This pioneering book in response to the feminist movement. What are the Muslims? What are you going on about misogyny? You hate men, you hate yourself. You know, it's about yin and yang. Yeah? The X and the Y, you're also hating yourself. Think about it. You've got to be very careful here. Just very quickly, look, there are no practical solutions here, okay? I think it starts off with number one, look, relax, there's no pressure, okay? You should be grateful where we are. We're in the best city in the world, one of the best places in the world. We can do this, okay? And I know people say, I get people from all over the world come to me about matrimony events. I've been in Singapore, flying all the way from Brunei, America, and saying, what the hell are you doing here? Because I'm looking for one. Somehow they did get married, but this is crazy. So you've flown 5,000 miles away just to come to Mizan's marriage event. I might get lost, yeah? Okay, you know, but I think practically, look, relax, enjoy life, okay? Look, we need to, you know, less this, please. Become human beings again, okay? Honestly. Less internet, less this, go out to the countryside, you know, speak to creatures, speak to animals. Seriously, they understand love. They understand love better than modern human beings. Trust me on this. Children do. Children do. Also, I really do think we're not going to find solutions until we re-establish, which I've been banging on about a lot with our leaders. We have to re-establish our cups, so where we can research this thing properly. If I'm trying to raise money for Fozia to research things properly, we need to have proper service and support advice. Look, there's too many support advice for forced marriages. That's fine, right? I mean, statistically, it's very, you know, questionable. But we need some support and advice lines for, look, I just need to, give me some advice. I'm finding it hard to live because many of our parents are dying, they're being buried. You don't know in your next generation that you may have a janazah or not. The way society is going, it's so liberally, neo-secular, God knows what it is, I don't know, whatever it is. There's no guarantee. So what I'm trying to say to you is, look, as a brother, as a man, you know, to some extent I am a chauvinist, misogynistic, yeah, I've heard it all. Brother Mizan's like this. We had this misogynistic conference, and I gave a big, lengthy retribution with regards to that, all that. Look, the bottom line is, look, you want marriage, you want single, all of this is nonsense. Throw that one in the bin. First of all, ask forgiveness from Allah and say, look, Allah, love me first. Love me first. Ask for the love of our Prophet ﷺ first. And Allah first. The rest will come. Will come. Open your eyes. Wallahi, seriously. The rest is just nonsense. Yeah. I've seen it all. Trust me, I've seen it all. Done it all. You know, I've got too many stories to tell. I could write a book, making millions of pounds, you know. But I don't want to do it because I have a responsibility. I know too many secrets of too many Muslim leaders and Muslim so-and-so, but I don't want to because I have a responsibility because you're my people and I'm accountable on the day of judgment of Allah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Mizan. And I would echo that too, actually, that I don't think, I think the marriage issue is a bit of a cover-up, in a sense, for other underlying issues. I work as a therapist and I do a lot of work with Muslim couples and also people who have been looking for the right partner. And often, I don't think the problem is the phone. I think the problem is what people think they should be looking for, the expectations of others, what other people say to them, and feeling like they're in a race for this, rather than actually really knowing themselves well enough to know that actually what's going to work for me, not what's going to work according to the checklist that I'm told I should follow, but actually who am I and what's most important for me at my core, and what would I want in a good partner. So I think there's a lot of things that people are fed that also confuse the picture and detract from what would actually make healthy relationships.